All right, today we're going to tackle one of art's most, let's say, challenging movements, conceptual art. You know, the stuff that makes a lot of people scratch their heads. So, what is it really? Why does it get such a strong reaction? And maybe, most importantly, how do you even begin to read it? Let's dive in.
First things first, we have to address the elephant in the room. Or maybe it's a shark in a tank. You see something like a urinal on a pedestal, and it's just impossible not to ask, is this actually profound, or is it just a big, elaborate scam? Are we all just pretending to see the emperor's new clothes? And you know what? Feeling that way is completely normal. In fact, a lot of conceptual art is designed to make you feel that specific anxiety. It's that little voice in your head going, am I missing something here, or is there literally nothing to get? But here's the secret. Asking that very question, that's the first real step to understanding the whole thing.
To really unlock this entire genre, you just need one master key. And it comes from one of the pioneers of the movement, Saul LeWitt. He put it as simply as possible. In conceptual art, the idea or concept is the most important aspect of the work. And that's it. That's the huge shift. The art isn't the physical thing you're looking at. It's the thought that sparked it.
LeWitt actually called the idea a machine that makes the art. So think of it like this. The real art, the creative genius, that all happens right at the start, with the idea. Everything after that, the planning, the making of the thing, he called it a perfunctory affair. It's just a secondary step. The art was basically finished before anyone even picked up a tool.
So how on earth did we get here, right? How did we go from celebrating beautiful paintings and sculptures, craftsmanship, to saying the most important thing is an invisible idea? Well, let's trace it back to the beginning.
The whole journey really starts with this one, totally game-changing concept, the ready-made. And the idea itself is deceptively simple, but it completely turned the art world on its head. It says an artist doesn't have to make something to create art. They just have to choose it. And of course, the most notorious example of this comes from 1917. An artist named Marcel Duchamp goes out, buys a totally standard urinal, flips it on its side, signs it with a fake name, Armut, and calls it art. By doing that, he stripped the urinal of its function and forced everyone to see it as a new idea. Suddenly, the question wasn't, is it beautiful? The question became, wait a minute, what even is art?
So this means we need a whole new way of reading art. Think of it this way. Traditional art is usually about aesthetics. It wants to please your eyes. But conceptual art is about semantics. It wants to engage your brain. It's not a picture of a thing. It's a statement about a thing. It's supposed to make you think, not just make you stare. Okay, with that in mind, let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine you're in a gallery. You see a real wooden chair. Next to it is a life-size photo of that exact chair. And next to that is a dictionary definition of the word chair printed on the wall. So I'll ask you directly, which one is the real work of art?
Well, this is a famous piece by Joseph Kosuth called 1 and 3 Chairs. And his answer? It's a trick question. He argues that none of them are the real art. The physical chair will rot. The photo is just a copy. The real, pure, actual work of art is the idea of chair that we all have in our heads. The stuff on the wall? It's just pointing you towards that idea. This is what it looks like when art starts acting like philosophy.
Now, this whole shift toward pure idea wasn't just some abstract philosophical game. For the first conceptual artists back in the 1960s, this was a radical political statement. And they had a very, very specific target in mind, the art market.
Their strategy had a name, dematerialization. And the logic was actually pretty brilliant. They figured if art can be just an idea, or maybe a set of instructions, or an experience that just happens, then you can't wrap it up and sell it as a luxury good. How do you buy and sell an idea? How do you put a price tag on a thought? One artist, Lawrence Weiner, took this idea to its absolute extreme. He basically stopped making physical objects altogether. He argued that forcing an audience to appreciate one specific, precious object was a kind of aesthetic fascism. I mean, wow. The whole point for him was to set art free from the object itself. And this way of thinking led right to something called institutional critique. Artists started using the museum, the very institution showing their work, as their actual medium. Take Hans Hocke's MoMA poll. He literally just set up a poll inside the museum, asking visitors a political question that was a direct jab at one of the museum's most powerful trustees. The art wasn't just in the museum anymore. The art was about the museum, exposing all the hidden networks of money and power behind the scenes.
Okay, so if the art isn't an object, and the artist isn't necessarily a master craftsman, where do we, the audience, fit into all this? Well, conceptual art gives us a brand new job. The artwork isn't really finished until we show up and do something with it.
This piece is a perfect example. It's Roloflu's Soul City, a giant pyramid made of almost 6,000 oranges. But here's the thing. The pyramid isn't the art. The art is the act of you, the visitor, taking an orange and eating it. As people take the fruit, the sculpture slowly disappears. The art literally only exists because we participate in its destruction.
So we have this really radical, anti-commercial movement, all based on pure ideas and escaping the market. But, every good story needs a twist, and the twist here is a big one. The very same strategies that were invented to escape the market were later used to create some of the most expensive artworks in history.
And the contrast couldn't be more stark. In the 1960s, the goal was to dematerialize art, to get away from the market. But fast forward to the 1990s, and a new generation of artists decided to hypermaterialize their work to completely corner the market. The poster boy for this massive shift was Damien Hirst, the leader of the so-called young British artists. He took the basic principle of conceptual art, that the idea is king and that assistants can actually make the work, but he applied it to making huge, shocking spectacles and undeniable luxury items.
So what we have here is a total inversion. That idea machine that Solo Witt talked about, the one designed to pump out pure concepts, well, in Damien Hirst's hands, it became a cash cow. He was using the same operating system, but running a totally different program, one aimed right at creating buzz, shock, and huge sales. And the ultimate example of this has to be his diamond-encrusted skull, For the Love of God. With an asking price of £50 million, it's the ultimate luxury good. But here's the conceptual sting. You could argue it's a critique of how obsessed the art market is with money and death, by becoming the most insane example of it. It's mocking the system by being the most expensive thing in the system. So, after all the controversy, the big ideas, and the even bigger price tags, what's the real, lasting legacy of conceptual art? Well, it's not really about any one object. It's about a permanent change in how we're allowed to think about art. Let's go back to that beautiful idea from Lawrence Weiner. Talking about his art, which was just ideas, he said, they don't have to buy it to have it, they can just have it by knowing it. And that, right there, is the true gift of conceptual art. It suggests that real ownership isn't about possession, it's about understanding.
And that's really the final takeaway here. The greatest legacy of conceptual art is that it moves the center of value from your eye to your mind. It changes your job from just being a passive consumer to being an active thinker. It doesn't just ask you to look, it challenges you to ask, okay, what's the proposition here? And in doing that, it validates your own mind as the place where art truly comes alive.